Will writes in to beyond@ign.com just like you can and says, "Greetings, Gregory, Colin, and the ever-rotating third chair. Beyond.
What's up?
Beyond.
With the announcement of Infamous First Light standalone DLC featuring the female protagonist, Fetch, is it possible that this demonstrates a change in the tide with more female leads in video games? With the, in my opinion, successful revamp of the Lara Croft franchise and having the playability of Ellie in The Last of Us, spoilers, I found that it brings a fresh and modern perspective in gaming." Signed off, Will. I thought it was an interesting question on a few levels. Number one, we just had Nate Fox on Up at Noon. I asked him this question at the end. It was interesting to hear him talk about it. For them, they didn't think about it. They Fetch hit with the kids. Everybody who played the game talked about how awesome the character Fetch was. They went that way, and then once they got into it, they were like, oh, and they kind of like looked around, and I'm being metaphoric, obviously, looked around and were like, oh wait, not many people are doing this. And Nate was talking about how that sucks. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And he's like, we kind of walked into doing this as like, oh, we're making a cool female protagonist, but it wasn't our plan, but it needs to be for more people.
Yes. Yeah. There was that Ubisoft quote this morning. Did you guys see it about Far Cry?
Oh yeah, I heard your take on the quote. You gave me the real quote.
They said it's that Far Cry 4 is packed to the gills with female characters.
Yeah,
which is just like, I mean, it's weird because it's why even go out and say that? It's sort of just like, no, everything's fine. Come on in. We put tons of girls here for you guys. Like, I like the Infamous approach of just sort of doing it naturally and being like, oh yeah, that's right. Why would we even think about that?
This is what I always come back to when we talk about being gay in games, right? Like, and I won't spoil any games recently or in the past year, I guess, because there's a couple of standout
Super
moments.
Mario 3D World.
Yeah,
was a big one.
But the fact that both of those games kind of try to treat the relationships that I'm thinking of, the games that I'm thinking of, Wink, try to treat those relationships as just relationships, right? It isn't like beating you over the head with it. It's just like these people are in love, and that's the end. And I've talked about it in a few panels and stuff, that like, that's awesome. And I hope we get to that quicker. And I hope it's the same way here, you know what I mean? The fact that, our main character is a girl or a woman.
Yeah, I want to get to the point where we just have video games where there are... It just says, featuring relationships, and that just covers everything.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you unlock exclusive gay DLC.
Yeah, do you have the Mass Effect stuff in here from this morning?
No, I don't.
Mass Effect, our first fully gay character.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, I mean, this was like a race...
I thought, what was that guy's name? Kaiden or...
Caden?
Wasn't he?
No, Caden loved Shepard regardless of sex. That's what they mean, right? Like, my femshep was a lesbian until she hooked up with Garrus. But giving me that option I'm assuming in what I don't care, is that made her not fully gay.
Right.
And so now this is a fully gay character where there's no...
So, like, regardless of your gender.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you're a girl, I don't know. I didn't read the article yet.
They made it sound like he's got these, like, gay blinders on.
Right.
Like, no matter what, nothing gets past it. Like, why even say that?
Yeah,
just
weird.
like...
They've been really progressive about it, too. BioWare's been very progressive about
I know.
That was Dragon Age 2, actually. I think I said Mass Effect. So.
Yeah, it was Dragon Age, not Mass Effect. And yeah, I don't know. It's just unfortunate.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate, but
I guess it's baby steps.
Exactly. It's unfortunate in the way they phrased it today, in that then this becomes the thing of more. You know what I mean? Like, what we're talking about, I'd rather play that game, run into this character, try to romance him or her, and then be like, oh, no, I'm only into chicks. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, see ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like, not have it be a press release.
Not even a thing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're right. It's baby steps, and in a few years we can look back at stuff like this, the way we do with everything in society and culture, and go, man, that was dumb.
Yeah.
Because it's totally accepted now.
So now, if we step away from games for a second, I want to talk more about the Up at Noon episode.
Sure.
Everyone should watch Up at Noon, of course. I'll embed it in the article for Podcast Beyond. Here's my problem, though. A whole bunch of people popped up in the comments and were totally going the opposite way, and I was floored that this is happening, because usually we have such a great Up at Noon comment.
I was shocked at that too.
And they were so much like, I don't need more female characters. I'll play a female character. She's hot. And blah blah blah. I was like, oh, like stop talking like this. Why are you talking like this? And then somebody called me out, saying that they don't like the fact that I'm always socially crusading for females in games, right? But I don't, like, on Beyond, we don't have females on all that often. And I responded back to it, and I want to make sure I point this out to listeners, viewers here, the fact of, like, Podcast Beyond is a very centric show, right? We're here to talk about PlayStation and this, right?
Yep.
I feel like the commenter called out Leah B. Jackson, one of our newest editors here, and was like, he always, people have been demanding to have Leah on the show, and he hasn't done it. And I responded back, right, like, Leah admittedly doesn't play PlayStation that much, right? Like, it's the same way, like, me showing up on the IGN Arena podcast about MOBAs.
God.
Come on, like, what am I talking about? And so,
I'm gonna do that.
for me, it's almost
make stuff up.
And, like, this has come up before too when we've talked about, like, should sexual assault be in video games and how, what's that line? People get offended that we don't have more females on the show, but for me, it's almost as offensive to say, oh, hey, there's a topic asking about gender equality, so I'm going to have Naomi on, Leah on, whoever on, just to be the token girl.
Right.
To sound off on that one issue on a podcast about a whole bunch of games they might not be playing or up to speed on. You know what I mean?
And then you can be like, Podcast Beyond is packed to the gills with women. Like, that doesn't make it any better.
Our first fully female episode.
Exactly.
And so it's a slippery slope, but I mean, like, I'm trying to drive. I'm not inviting girls on the show because I want to be able to put a bullet tag on the show. I want it to be that when Megan reviews a JRPG, we bring Megan on because it makes sense and she wants to talk about this thing and the topic of the week or whatever. Blah, blah.
Yeah, it's that like sort of that's very binary, black and white. Like, there's only one way of looking at things. It sort of reminds me of like when people used to get mad at like political bans in the '90s and stuff like that, and they'd be like, well, your T-shirt company is located in China, so blah blah. And it's like, okay, well, we could just go back to music where no one has any message at all.
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Because the fact that we bring up anything should be good and invite conversation and not invite the hypocrisy in all of our worlds. Because I think that we should be allowed to talk on the show without having to illegally pad the room with females that don't know anything about PlayStation or sometimes the topic we're talking about just because they're women.
Yeah, it's more topic. Obviously, everyone knows a little bit about PlayStation.
Of course. Yeah, you can fake it.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue.
I do it. I've been doing it for 349 weeks.
My only issue with the whole argument is just like I think that when we focus on all of these real social issues in art, we kind of lose sight of the fact that really serious things are happening in the world that I wish people had more passion about.
Yeah, you're
and at the same time, get really disgruntled and mad when people are like people approach every situation, like the Far Cry situation with the offensive cover art, or with the female characters in Infamous or whatever it is, as being as if everything is offensive and nothing good has happened, like, to make it better. So what I mean by that is, like, no one prefaces it and says, like, it's getting better, but can we have more female characters in games? Usually it's like, where are the female characters? And it's like, did you play The Last of Us? Yeah. The best game, arguably the generation, with a powerful female character. I won't spoil any more than that if you didn't play the DLC. Yeah. A powerful female character with a lot more to her than that. Did you play Child of Light? Did you, like, all the, like... I guess what I'm saying is, like, I just get frustrated when people are like, just act like nothing is making it better. And so, like, you complain about the same thing over and over again, complain about what you want, but I always say, like, kind of give credit where credit is due. Sure. Like, you got to kind of, like, preface it and say, like, hey, man, like, it's not quite where we want it to be yet, but we're trying. But bravo to company X, Y, and Z for doing this, that, and the other thing. I mean, like,
I think a lot of it.
That's the thing that frustrates me.
100%, and I think a lot of it comes to the sort of immediacy and instant gratification of the way media is congested now, right? Like, you can go on Twitter, point at something, and be like, "That's offensive. I'm mad. Here's a hashtag," and then just kind of walk away and not really follow through with it, right? Like, back in the day, you had to, like, write letters. Like, you were very involved and very invested. You went to picket lines. You stood and, people like who tried to stop violent rap lyrics and stuff like that. And, that was like a campaign for a lot of people. Now it's like a hashtag. Yeah. And you just say something and you kind of walk away. And, like, you pop into a comment and you're like, I think all girls should be in the kitchen. Like, stupid. Like that. Which, first of all, if you're, I will fully admit that a large majority of IGN's demographic are young males, right? And I don't think many of them know yet that stuff like that just does not fly. Right. Like, when you're an adult in the committed relationship, gay, straight, or anything, being that disparaging and evil to your significant other or to anybody else's significant other gets you literally nowhere. Like, there is no benefit to me coming home and being like, "Hey, honey, what are you doing in the living room? I'm playing my games. You don't touch my controller unless you're handing me a sandwich." Like, that is
that she can touch the controller. She hands you a sandwich.
This is like a real comment I read on Up and In yesterday, and it's really hard to see that.
This is the whole point of, like, why I think derail into conversations like this, and I mean us, why we do this, right? And on every show we do, this comes up, right? And the fact that we don't take it for granted that a large percentage of the audience is, a young audience that maybe hasn't been open to a number of experiences that we have, right? And so somebody needs to sit there and say the unpopular thing and not shame someone, even though I shame trolls once in a while on Twitter. But
that's fine.
If you're just making a comment and not thinking about the adjective you're using, it's so gay. You know what I mean? Whoa, let's back up. Don't use that word.
I don't know. When I was in 6th grade, I would say the same thing.
Totally.
Hey, Mom, what's for dinner? Pasta. Oh, gay. Pasta can't be gay. It's just physically impossible. But I didn't have any shows to listen to tell me that was a horrendous idea.
Yeah, and it was also it was admittedly different back then too. Just generally with the way I think everyone talked. But to me, I think the other thing is that we just kind of get lost on the fringes. Like politics, you kind of get lost on the fringes and don't understand that in the middle, on one fringe, you have the people that are totally homophobic, totally sexist, misogynist, all those things, terrible people, right? On the other end side, you have people that look for any reason to be mad about anything, right? Literally any reason to be mad about anything, to go on a social justice crusade, right? In the middle, the 95% of the people in the middle are maybe vacillate one way or the other or feel one way or the other about about how any of these issues, but understand that it's getting better, it needs to be better than it is, and that progress is being made, and we have to kind of be patient, and slowly these games just don't materialize out of nowhere. It takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years to make a game. That the games will become more gender inclusive or racially inclusive or whatever it is you're looking for. And those are the people that really we should listen to more often, but they're silent because they understand the process is in play. It's the same thing that's going on with gay marriage right now. The domino has been tipped. It's over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're fighting, if you're fighting against that, you're wrong, and you're in the wrong, and it doesn't matter because it's still going to happen anyway. And so I feel it's the same thing here. It's just gender equality and all these things, and the end of misogyny in games, that will slowly occur over time. And it's slowly occurring right now because there's evidence everywhere that it's happening.
If you were gay 20 years ago, you were kind of in this silent majority or minority, and you didn't tell anybody, right? And you kept it a secret. And now, if you are anti-gay, that's kind of what you have to do. It's kind of amazing. You have to hide in secrecy because now everyone else is out, and it's okay. We're all great with it. We think it's wonderful. And if you're like this, on the side going, I don't want any of that, you're there. That being said, I think that we are making progress. Obviously, it's getting better each day, but we're also I feel like we're sort of and sorry if this is running a little long, but we are
conversational podcast.
Sure, I think we are also holding the video game industry against some of the faults it had 5-10 years ago. I do feel that sort of bald space marine dude bro era is kind of done. Or for the most part, a lot.
Obviously, there's still some, but
there's still some. But I think the majority being bald. Bald, tough, straight male on the box with a gun being the way you sell video games. I think that's changing. We did this Game of the Year watch thing for GameScoop the other day, and we kind of ran through it. You were there, right? And we kind of said, a lot of the games that we're talking about are, they're smaller games, they're indie games, they're more artistic games. I think that creativity is flourishing in the industry right now, and it's not just about guy square in the center of a box with a gun, bald head, being I want to bang some chicks. That Duke Nukem Gears of War thing is it's kind of gone, and it's or getting to be gone. So that's exciting to see, and that means creativity can flourish again, and openness in terms of gender equality with characters can happen too. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Beyond.
I think we're making good progress.
Yep.
I hate I just hate the whole it really grinds my gears of war about, the whole thing. I hate everything. Everything sucks. Nothing's good enough. This is not misogynist, but it's still misogynist. This is not sexist, but it's still sexist. I'm going to look for, I was reading something that was really fascinating to me yesterday in the Washington Post, an op-ed about how this guy wrote an op-ed saying that the way the American military names its weapons is racist because we name our missiles Tomahawks and our helicopters Blackhawks. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, thanks.
Are you really that's a little much, that's going to the extreme and actually takes all of the legitimate qualms that you have and delegitimizes them to a lot of people, because you're taking it too far, and so that's we just kind of have to meet in the middle and understand that things are going to change slowly but surely, and there's no place for sexism or misogyny or homophobia in life generally, and that will eventually bleed into art.
Yeah,
it will. It always goes that way,